More than likely, you're already familiar with Payson Morby's name. You've probably seen him over on YouTube, on the social channels, and he is so much fun to watch. And he is so genuine on all of all the content he produces, right? He's most known for, creative financing, seller financing, the Gator method. And you can find him on so many podcasts discussing all of the strategies and tactics in that way. But today here on The Conscious Investor, we have a really tender, honest conversation about life, about mindset, about being a multiplier, about serving our families and serving our communities in an extraordinary way. To be completely honest, Conscious Investor, I had a list of questions that I wanted to ask Pace, and it was really more about the investing side of life. And our conversation just lent itself so much into the mindset domain, into the thinking domain. And there are very few times where you're going to have access to somebody that's worth over $32,000 an hour who's going to share the mindset, the thinking, the philosophy that is driving and guiding their decisions. And honestly, that access to that sort of information is worth far more than getting your next creative financing deal, because that type of information is going to unlock parts of your mind to think in an entirely new way, so far beyond just your next deal, just your next investment, whether that's a passive investment or an active investment. I think you're really going to enjoy hearing this side of Pace, this very deeply rich, meaningful, personal side of life. And I hope that you take time to share this with people, because he is one of the most genuine, sincere, humble humans walking the planet right now, and definitely a voice worth amplifying. And I think that people really need access to this side of who is Pace Morby, right? I know you're going to enjoy this, and please let me know what you gain and how you grow from this episode. About that, and I don't think that this is just women. Okay. I don't think that this is just moms, because now that, my husband and I, we've known each other since middle school. Like, now that I look at, his middle-aged experience and everything, I think a lot of men, and there's this line in this book, and it talks about this: men do what's expected of them. They provide, they take care, they do. And men do their own version of sacrifice. Yeah. And it's really obvious to see that with moms, because we're literally physiologically giving up our bodies. If it's our womb, if it's our boobs to nurse and things like that, right? It's like all of that. It's really obvious. But men are doing this grind that is also exhausting. And it flies under the radar. And I'm a huge supporter of actually women do give up a lot, but men give up a ton also. And historically, with our ancestors, they were, the warriors, they were the protectors, and and men still are. Good men are still warriors and protectors of their family. It just looks so different, but I think it's equally depleting and exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff I do on a daily basis is because I'm like, okay, I need to make sure my kids have this and that and blah, 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 and provide. And I need to create a world for them and da, 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 da. And I'm going to put the stress and pressure on my back of having employees, insurance, this, that, and the other, bad tenants, management issues, partnership breakups, all these types of things, lawsuits, all these things, and then come home and print. I always tell men in my community, I go, how dare you complain when you go home? Shut your damn mouth. Don't go home and ever complain to your wife about how hard you worked outside. She worked twice as hard, I promise you. But, we internalize a lot of stuff because nobody wants to hear a man complain. I don't want to hear a man complain. Just go do your job. But it is a job, right? And it does require sacrifice. And one thing I can see in today's society, a lot of the kids in my community, I have a lot of 18 to 22-year-old young men that come into my community, and they are hesitant to get married. And I tell him, I go, oh, it's the Peter Pan syndrome. You have the Peter Pan syndrome where you don't want to grow up because you see the responsibility and what it really takes to support a family, and you're not ready to take that commitment on. It's not that you don't see the benefit of having children and having a spouse and having a loving partner that you go home to every day. You see that. You just are afraid of the responsibility because it is so significant. So yeah, I mean, men have a big burden to shoulder, but that's the great thing. I tell people I'm very stressed to be, or I'm very blessed to be stressed. I'm grateful to have the things that stress me out because it makes me into the person I am. I can mold myself. And, I just ordered 3 books on Amazon that you suggested to me. By the way, he wrote 3 books, so actually more. So I just ordered all 3.
Yeah.
And I'll just crank out all of those. And I love that there's people having these conversations out there because people get sucked into the real estate investing world of cash flow, do this, do this, do this. Okay, well, then what? And I know that if I know what the pot of gold that is at the end of the rainbow, I can chase down that rainbow way faster knowing what the goal actually is. And if the goal is only just more cash flow rather than a balanced, happy life and another version of yourself, I'm going to run a little bit slower not knowing that. But now knowing, hey, there's something over there that I want to chase other than just cash flow and more money, I'm going to run a lot faster and be more joyous as I make that run.
Oh my gosh, this is exactly what the conscious investor is all about. It's health, meaning physical, relational, spiritual health. It's mindset, be the gatekeeper and guardian of your mind. And then it's wealth. Wealth meaning there's tangible, transferable, and then tangible, intangible, and transferable. And like that, the conscious investor came about because I was just nauseated looking at everybody in the multifamily space. Like, how many units do you have? I'm like,
oh yeah,
who cares? Are you an asshole? Like, I don't know. Are you a good person? Are you contributing? Like, I don't know what's going on internally, but I don't care what your tangible wealth is if you're not doing something good. And then the millennials come along. We have this whole intangible wealth. Intangible meaning like, oh, I have experiences and I have, it's the things that we can't put our finger on, right? But to me, I see them as 2 sides of the exact same coin. It's like right. Gen Xers have the tangible, and then millennials have the intangible, and it's both hoarding up like Scrooge McDuck of something that is not transferable, which is why I value transferable wealth, which is a little different than legacy wealth, right? Legacy wealth is something everybody kind of latches onto, but that really falls under the other two buckets. But if we have transferable wealth, that means we can transfer, which is what you do through all your content. You say, hey, here's my experience, here's my knowledge, here's my savvy, here's everything from me. If I could put you into the matrix, here you go. Boom. I'm going to transfer this over to you. So it's not just part of my life. That's the greatest wealth that we could possibly have, is like whatever we have stored in us, is if we can just transfer that over to somebody else. Like crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hang out with, obviously, I brought up Grant, but I hang out with a lot of people that have 5,000 units, 12,000 units. And, I have 2,100 units. And there was a point in our planning meeting this last 2 weeks ago. I have 9 companies, so I couldn't do all my planning meetings in December for the upcoming year. So we had a planning meeting that came into the new year. And Molly, who's my head of operations, she says, all right, we did 1,100 and something on units this year. And let's talk about all of the other successes. And it was interesting. The team thought that, hey, we should go around the room, 12 people on that particular business that run the whole asset management and all the portfolio. They thought that the conversation we were looking for was financial related, right? And I should have started, but I was the person at the very end. And my thing that I felt like was the biggest win of the year was a text message we got from one of our full-time transaction coordinators. That was the biggest win of my year. And what she said was, Pace, before I had this job a year ago, my husband fell sick and I was a stay-at-home mom with 5 kids. She sent me this whole long text message. And I thought my highest and best value of going out and earning income was being a lunch lady at my local elementary. And it wasn't until I got this job that now I realized that there's so much more out there. And I now have a self-esteem I've never felt in 50 years of my life. I feel like I'm providing real value to something great. And I'm not even the same person I was a year ago. after you guys hired me. And I was like, this is why we do what we do, guys. Like, it's not about more units. It's about, okay, yeah, we want to buy more units, but we really want to provide more opportunities for people who have been disenfranchised or don't even know that these are things. And we want to pass the torch on of this knowledge to people. And so, the whole team they know this girl. And so I saw a lot of people wiping their tears, seeing how this girl has transformed her life. And now she can support 5 kids while her husband is basically on bed rest. And I'm like, that's really what we're doing here, guys. And even then, like, there's that thing of that's real wealth to me. I feel like I took action on real estate investing. I went through the hardships, the trials, the lawsuits, the partnership breakups. When you start making a lot of money, then what happens is partners start fighting over the money that when you first started a partner, that the money wasn't there. And so those conversations were not had. And so I've been through those 5 years ago, found the right partners, know what questions to ask. I fought through all of that to get to a point where I got that one text message that made my whole entire year. And then I get caught up. I go hang out with another dude that's like, yeah, I'm at 12,000 units. And then that man inside of me is like, I need to be at 12,000 units. And I forget about that text message. So it's, you got to be a lot more conscious and really put those things, whether it's maybe on your wall or a text message reminder once a week of like, hey, this is why we're doing what we're doing, because you can get sucked up into that vortex of social media and all the influence that people are putting out there.
It's so easy to get sucked into all of it. And that's why it's so important to know who you are. But here's what's cool is that one thing, and I don't think that this is just because listen, you and I know enough people, and you know even more of them and higher players than I do. But like, we will know enough people where they have their social media presence, and most of the people I know are actually congruent. They're like the same person on and off. But there are a few where I'm like, yeah, I know it's going
I hang out with a lot of them. They're like it's like night and day. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, honestly.
Okay, so a lot of them that I know are pretty congruent, but you're one of those people where you and I haven't spoken personally, but you've been on different friends' podcasts, and you actually influenced one of, I do performance coaching, right? One of my clients, you changed her life. Like, her goal was, I want to retire by, debt free by 33, leave my 9 to 5 by 35. And she used your strategies in doing that and achieving that, right? And it's just been this huge, and she's a multiplier as well, which is, the ripple started with you. You're affecting her life. She's affecting other people's lives in a powerful way. All that to say is, when I sent you a message over on Instagram inviting you to the show, it's like, it felt authentic and real. And I guess what I'm trying to say here in a long-winded way is, you being you does something greater than you can ever possibly realize. You being you around someone like Grant, they don't know what to do with people like you. And for someone at his stature, it might take like so many interactions with you to even like penetrate through, right? Because he's been working on this for a really long time. But you being you is like butting heads with that resistance that people feel. It's like saying, no, there's another way. There's a better way, right? And there are some other people that are trying to do that in the world. Like, hey, we can be successful and we can live these really empowered lives. Like, yeah. They are one and the same.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying all that. I've been hanging out with Grant for almost 4 years now, and we have been friends for 3 of those 4 years. The first year was basically just superficial, being in some of the same rooms and whatever else. And then I built a relationship with him. The other day, I did an interview with him about his lawsuit that's going on. And I'm like, he's 65. He has all this money, and he's buying an $80 million house on this coast, a $40 million house on that coast. He's got a $100 million plane. And I look at him, I'm like, Grant, when is it time for you to just go on a bike ride and like throw your phone away for a day? And that's just, maybe that's not built in him, or maybe he's just like intoxicated with the influence that he has. I don't know what it is, but we're sitting down, and his president, Jared Glant, says to me, he's like, you know what, man, like, you people, when we hang out with you, Pace, we actually feel like a sigh of relief, or we don't have to like pontificate, and we don't have to dramatize everything, and we don't have to, he's like, we just love being around you because that's your thought process. Like, why do we need to have all these things? And Grant, when I asked him, I said, Grant, when's enough enough? He didn't have an answer. He's like, I just like to win. I'm like, you won 10 years ago. Like, what are you trying to win now? You know, and who am I to judge anybody's goals? But it is interesting to see Grant is so driven at 65 years old, which is admirable. But also at the same time, it's like, Grant, what are you doing for yourself? What are you doing for your kids? How much time are you spending here? How much time are you spending with maybe your church or your this or your that or whatever else? And so you have to pick and choose who you take your influence and your osmosis from. You have to block some of these things off. And one of the people I've told Grant multiple times, I'm like, guys, when I'm around you and I hear the way you speak, I have to block off the osmosis because I don't want to become you. I want to become something else. And do you remember, Julie, when you were coming up in the game, you basically would take advice from basically anybody that was more successful than you. And then at some point, there's a moment where you go, hold on, this is my path. I need to go over here. And you had to give yourself permission to not listen to 50% of the people because they had a different path, a different lifestyle, a different belief, a different spirit about them than what you really wanted. I remember how hard it was for me. I would be pulled every which way. And then I woke up and this is what somebody told me, said, only take advice from people that are as successful as you want to be. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean by that? And then, they basically said what you just said, which wealth is a lot more than just money. It's also like, what's the balance? Are you able to go on a bike ride today? Are you able to put your phone down? How about this? Am I able to lose my phone for 3 days and still be okay? What if I just lost my phone or I dropped it in the lake, right? And I didn't have a phone for 3 days. Would I be okay? And I think a lot of professionals are like, oh crap, what would I do? There'd be a lot of problems. So, this year, that's one of the things I'm really working on is how do I pretend like I don't have my phone 8 or 9 hours a day? How do I then get to a point like my buddy Jerry, where he's like, I literally unplug my phone and I leave it unplugged for 3 months. It's dead. The only way you can get a hold of me is via email. And I'm just spending every day chopping wood, working on my cabin with my kids at the lake, hiking, doing all that kind of stuff. I'm like, dude, that's where I need to be. And so that's really honestly my main focus this year.
It's so powerful. I'm going to encourage you with this. My husband last year, we were trying to get into a different rhythm. And then I kind of threw a wrench in the wheel with some of the deals that I was working on. And it just got insanely intense for my whole family.
Of course.
I'm sure you don't understand what that's like at all. But he actually built out the back of his truck and he took the time to craft it himself because there's that process, that methodical, just like detachment from the world. Right. And so in the back of his truck now, he has like this bed, there are drawers under it and everything. And his goal, we will do it this year. Last year, he's supposed to go every month for 2 nights, 3 days, something like that. Just go out into the woods. I don't care where you go. Like, just let me know where you're going and then just go fish, do bees. He's in Scotland and he actually truly loves Scotch and smoking, classic pipes. So I'm like, just go get lost in your thoughts because we don't take time to actually just stop and think. And so when he comes back from his trip, he's staying an extra day. And I said, you need to stay at least an extra day just for you, just to like, before you come back and you're around your family, like just be, because especially when we love our family so much, like as you and I do, like we can get so lost in, oh, I want to take care of this child and I want to love on my spouse and you just got to get lost in the thoughts.
Yeah, it's a really good point. We every year, and this is also ties into like some of the things I have to fix, but every year, 4 years ago, we bought an Airstream and we're like, let's drive for 5 months every summer. Let's just drive through the country and meet people in our community and do deals with people. But like, that's the funny thing about how my thought process has been. It's like, let's do this amazing adventure so that Pace can work more out in the field with his students and with his people. So like that, we did that. We've done it every year. This year, we are going to do it again, where we leave Arizona, we drive through 6 or 7 different states. I'll go to national parks, but then the next day I'm doing a big meetup with my students. And then I wake up this like last month and I'm like, my wife has not had a vacation with me that did not involve work in like maybe 15 years. Even like Bigger Pockets conference, I go speak at Bigger Pockets conference. I'm there for 3 days. I speak 3 different times. And then the next day we're going to Disney World. But it's like we went to Disney World because dad was speaking at Bigger Pockets, right? And same thing, it's like, oh, we're in Coeur d'Alene for Ken McElroy's thing or Tarl Yarber's thing or somebody else's event. Pace is speaking on stage. I guess we'll go on the lake this afternoon for 4 hours because we have a flight that's in 7 hours. We have enough time to like squeeze in the personal stuff. So, that comes from, that's the residue. That's the residue of the 20-year-old man that's like, I have to do everything in my power to support my family. And I have to remove that residue from my brain and just realize, dude, take 2 more days, like do a family vacation and then think about, I'm speaking for 1 day, but I'm going to do 3 days of family vacation rather than the other way around, So those are the things I've got to tweak and now I've been working on it. So this will be a much different year in terms of balance for sure.
I think it is different though. I would caution you in saying I have to fix it. Like somebody told me recently, like, oh, I'm so broken, nobody can fix me. And I'm like, we're not broken. We're just discovering. Like life is, and we're not necessarily always fixing something. We're just like, oh wow, I have this new level of awareness.
Yeah.
I can see this now. I couldn't see it before. This is a gift that I can see this. And now I can take action on this and change my life by 1%. And that's going to shift the course of everything. And I don't know how, but cool, I'm going to do that. Like,
right. I mean, it really is just a journey of self-discovery. That's what I tell her. I'm like, I'm growing up still to this day at 40 years old. I'm still growing up. I'm on a journey of self-discovery. And so every day is an adventure, which is awesome. Even today, I'm like, I went on my run. I'm running a marathon in a couple of weeks. And I'm on a run listening to a book that I've never listened to before about a topic I've never even cared about before. I'm like, let's switch something up. And I found like 3 moments where I stopped and I took notes on my phone. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so good. Da, 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 da. So again, it's like every day is a journey of self-discovery. The things I have to fix, I wouldn't say fix, but the things I have to adjust now that I have a new level of awareness is like, oh, nobody told me, like my dad's 65 years old, still grinding, like that's my blueprint for success. So it's not so much fixing. It's more like, hey, that blueprint got me to age 20. That blueprint also showed me what work ethic looked like and actually how to love to work. But that work ethic, it's like my buddy Dean Graziosi says to me a couple of days ago, he says, yes, we'll get you out of Egypt, but no will get you to the promised land. And you need to start saying no to things and really figuring out what that promised land is for you. So I'm in that season of my life where I'm still saying, or I was saying yes to too many things. And it's like, I've already gotten out of Egypt. I've already escaped. I've already gotten financial independence. I don't need to say yes to every little opportunity that comes to me that takes time away from my family and my friends and my this and myself. It's time for me to start saying no to some opportunities and start saying yes to some stuff for myself.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot and say, where will you vacation this year with just your wife?
Ooh, just my wife. That'll be tough.
No work. Okay, Phil can come along.
Yeah, Phil. So we are, this is tough because I'm like, okay, I don't buy my wife gifts for herself. I do buy her some jewelry. Like she'll want some jewelry. She does like that stuff. But like outside of that, we don't do Christmas and birthdays. So what I found like 10 years ago, she's so obsessed with her relationship with her father, rightfully so, that instead of me buying things for her on her birthday, I buy things for her parents, experiences that her parents have never gotten for her birthday. So last year I bought her father and mother tickets to the Masters coming up in April. So we'll go to the Masters this year with the whole family. We'll go to a practice round so the kids can be there and we can take photos and do the thing. But even then I'm like, okay, I'm going to be in Atlanta. Okay, cool. I'm going to do a big meetup and I'm going to do a charity thing and because I'm already going to be there. And so literally this morning I was planning out that trip and I go, let's remove the work aspects. Let's just focus on maybe another day of golf. Maybe we should go play golf as a family. I should take, Laura's never been to Atlanta. I've been there 100 times. Let me take her to some of my favorite restaurants. So that will be the first time. We'll be in April. We'll go to the Masters and spend 2 more days in Atlanta that we weren't originally planning on doing.
That's really awesome. It's a gift. My husband actually called me to task on that. And he said, as we were thinking about 2024, he's like, I'd like to go on a trip that didn't have any ties at all
to a conference
business at all.
Like let's go. There's a multifamily conference going on. Let's go to this and then go to such and such afterwards.
but honey, it's so much fun. Like,
Yeah.
like I just finding that detachment. And I'm actually noticing that some of my friends in the space are actually, I was talking with somebody last week and he said, most of my travel is going to be dedicated towards my family this year
Mm.
because I think that after 2020, everybody went on this whole other pendulum, like, thank God we're out and I have to go to every conference and now there are more conferences and I'm going to go to all of them and now I think 2024 is a year where everybody's saying, "Whoa, I was kind of ODing on all of that and that's
Mm.
good, but it's not best." And I don't settle for good. I go for best and I'm going to balance the scales.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I remember how disconnected we all felt from each other. It's one of the reasons why I went on my Airstream trip. I was like, I'm gonna get out. Like I'm getting out of the state of Arizona. We're gonna go around and meet with people and like forget that COVID's a thing and live in RV parks for half a year so that we don't feel that way. And the RV park community is very much like anti everything. Like they're just like out
Big
in the
time.
open. Who cares, right? So we figured out how to hack that. But then the world came back to normal, like in 2021, 2022, and events. I spoke on 110 stages last year.
That's exhausting.
And oh my gosh, two stages a week. I was in 110 different cities, right? Miami, I spoke at 7 times. So I'm like flying to Miami multiple times and doing the thing. And I woke up, I'm like, oh my gosh, I spent my whole year. Now my family was with me at a lot of those flights and my family came and traveled with me and saw the country. So there was a lot of that. But oh my gosh, this year I'm going from 110 events this year to I will speak at 12, one per month I will speak at. And then more importantly, I'm going to go to 4 this year that I'm going to attend myself. I have not gone to an event in 5 years that I have not been asked to speak at. And so there's a lot of things I'm just having a new level of awareness of like, dude, I stopped learning, right? I'm teaching all the time. And I'm like, I want to go to an AI convention. Like I want to go to things that I'm actually genuinely interested in that I have no experience in. Well, in order to do that, I got to cut back on all my speaking. And so I have new filters and new things. And the girl that runs my schedule, her name is Sangeetha. She's like, you want to go down from 110 speaking gigs to 12? I go, yeah. And she goes, am I getting fired? I go, no,
Oh
you're
my
not
God,
getting fired.
sweet.
But she spends so much time, coordinating all these things. And so I
Right.
go, no, you're going to coordinate different things. We're going to coordinate other things. Like we're doing this thing so my house in Montana is not far from you guys. We're in Kalispell. And so we're like 3 hours away from you, the little 3 hour drive.
I just booked a place up there 2 days ago. My husband's going to come back and be like, "Hey, honey, we've got a place we're going to go hang out."
Oh yeah, it's Kalispell so great. So I've got a little ranch up there, a little 30-acre parcel up there, nice big home right by a lake. And anyway, we'll spend a lot of time up there, but I'll do a big event this summer where I'll bring my whole community in and we'll do like festivals and fun things that are non-real estate centered. Like I'll bring in 500 people from my community and it won't cost them any money. I'm like, let's go shoot guns. Let's go hiking. Let's go into the river. I'm going to hire a fishing guide to teach 500 of us to teach or to fish today. Like, I don't know how that's going to be possible, but we'll have fun doing it. Just a lot less work this year, and being a lot more conscious around the balance of things. I'm really looking forward to this year. First time, actually, to be honest, it's the first time I've ever said that in my life of like, I'm going to work less this year. So yeah, this conversation is very timely.
Two questions on that. One comment, one question. Comment is super high fives because what you are doing, like this is true leadership, right? Because people look up to you, they value you, and you are changing lives. But what you're doing by putting this like stop in place, this little stopgap, is saying, okay, we're not going to be part of the hustle culture and we can be successful. And this is what success looks like. And so you're actually literally grooming and influencing these pliable minds, which is so, so, so powerful.
Yeah. So somebody said something to me the other day that was what the leader does in moderation, the followers can do in excess. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And they said, well, if you say the F word, for example, around your kids, and it might be once a year, you say the F word around your kids, right? Which is something I don't do, but I do other things, right? Maybe I come home late or I watch TV on Sunday half the day, whatever it is I do. It's like whatever the leader does in moderation, Like you rarely do it. You give your followers or you give people that you are leading permission to do it in excess because they don't know the filter that you've gone through to like do that thing in that one moment. Oh, it was Vivek Ramaswamy. Okay. Like who, I don't know if you've been watching the politics. He obviously stepped out of the race, but Vivek was on stage and he drops the F bomb on stage, which is very out of character. But Vivek, his justification was, well, I was on stage with a group of people that appreciate when somebody says the F word to like get a point across. And the person I was talking to was like, you can't do that because now you're the people that follow you and support you. You've now given them permission that that's okay. And so anyway, what you're saying is the same thing. It's like when I don't take care of myself, and I don't take care of my life and my, my own journey of self-discovery, and all I do is grind and hustle all the time. What I'm doing is I'm showing that my people, through my leadership, they should be basically grinding themselves to a freaking heart attack as well. And so they'll do it 10 times more than I will because they don't understand the mental filter that I went through in order to justify that. So that's a really good thought.
It's my mom always says that. She always said, what you do, and she didn't apply to. She was just like, what you do as a mom, and she would say that to my husband and I. What you guys do in moderation, your kids will do in excess. And I was like, oh gosh,
Yeah.
It can feel like a weight, like a burden, but then it's also not. It also is just that call to action to be very mindful of, like what are the choices that I'm making and how am I living. My question is, like, what is it that you are hoping? What would success look like at the end of this year going this route? And I would also like to I'm going to share a quote with you also. I love going to church. I was at church yesterday, and no joke, the teacher said, God never commands us to be successful. He asks us to be faithful, which, sorry, I felt like I just like infuse that in this, like, the concept of success is so, everybody has their own idea of it. But as we said before, most of us are just borrowing from someone else's version of what success is instead of saying, pause, what's mine? I had to do that recently because every time, and I'm confident you've gone through this, every time you enter a new room, you're being stretched and you're like, oh, crud, I don't know anything. And maybe I need to be what they're doing. And it's like, nope, I need to be me. I got to do me. So what would success look like at the end of 2024 for you personally, professionally?
So for me, it's being more efficient with the way that I deliver things to people who rely on me. And so I'll give you a couple of examples. So people that are not in my community, let's say people that are on my YouTube channel, the better I am at storytelling to convey a message that can land in their brain in a way that they can receive it where they're at and actually take action. Instead of me doing 3 YouTube videos a day and hoping more is going to help them, one of the things I hired this year, I hired a coach on storytelling. And people tell me, you're one of the best storytellers and one of the best educators in the space. I'm like, okay, but how can I do less by being better at delivering a message, right? In a more punctuated, shorter format where I'll go on and make a YouTube video that's 20 minutes long, but the average person only watches YouTube for 7 minutes. So how do I make 7-minute YouTube videos that convey the same exact message so I have less time there, but actually more success there as well? So efficiency there. The other thing too is like, if I'm speaking on stage, I was saying yes to a lot of things last year. So I would speak on stages of, let's say, 500 people, which is, 5 years ago, I'd be so super stoked about that. But I have a responsibility for my message and my team that has now 600 employees. I have a responsibility to be on stages that are 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 people as a minimum. So one of the things that I'm doing is as I become better at storytelling and delivering a message and communicating, I will be getting on stages that are much larger. So therefore, I don't need to speak on as many stages. So for example, my first 10,000 person stage was last month. My first 20,000 person stage is in 2 months. So I can justify doing less stages in order to still accomplish the same exact thing, which is delivering a message. I obviously have a massive team that rely on me to go be the message deliverer of our product. Whatever that is, raising capital, or hey, our fund is raising this and we got this, or whatever the message is I'm trying to convey. Another thing is when I spend time traveling around, I also do meetups with my community all over the country. I did 110 meetups last year at 110 stages I spoke at. And so I think, how can I just do big events that are free for my community and they can all converge in my office in Phoenix or at my ranch in Montana? So less travel, same amount of connection, and do it in a more controlled environment where I'm not doing it 3 hours. I'm not flying 3 hours to do a 4 hour event to then fly 3 hours back home. I give them an experience and I say, you guys fly to me and we'll do a 7 hour experience at the office, at the ranch, at the whatever. So I'm actually spending less time creating more impact and being around people more often. So I could go on and on and on. It was basically like I listed out, I have another coach, he's a time blocking coach, because sometimes us high performers just want to work all day long. So I hire a time blocking coach. It was expensive and completely worth it. And we went back 4 months in my calendar and he says, let's go through, because I'm highly organized, highly structured. I'm sure you are too. And I found there was about 100 tasks I did over that 4 month period that he said, dude, you not only should have delegated these to other people, you have people on your team that would have already taken them, but you just own them and you control them. And so you need to get rid of these 100 things. So I had a couple of meetings with my teams and I said, hey guys, I've been a horrible leader and I've been hoarding these tasks. Can everybody get together in an 8-person meeting and say, who can take these things off my plate? What Dan, my coach, said, he says, the biggest stress you'll run into with that is that now you've just created an extra 15 hours of dead space. And the reason why you haven't delegated those things is because you don't know what to do with that extra 15 hours yet. And so what I did incorrectly, he says, I want to see what you do. So this is what I did. I then identified the 25 things that everybody, my partners, my employees, my investors, everybody relies on me on a weekly basis to do these 25 things that only Pace can do. And these are truly only Pace can do these things. And what did I do with the 15 hours? I just filled the 15 hours with those 25 things. And Dan comes back and he's like, dude, you're doing it wrong. Like you should have done something else with those 15 hours. I'm like, what? And he's like, live your life. Like, going back to everything that we're talking about here. So again, efficiency, becoming better storyteller, and not filling the dead space with more work, but filling the dead space with life and making it life space rather than more workspace.
It's the challenge with that is that we become detached in the journey, as we were talking about earlier. It's funny, this conversation is like a spirograph where it just keeps zooming back to the center, and really, and it's like if we lose, we're detached from who we are, and so we just stay disconnected. It's easier to keep working. It's easier to do what's familiar than to say, oh, I'm going to take time and feel awkward that I don't know what I want to do with this time. I'm going to feel awkward just like going for a walk, or just filling that time is something that is normal for me. But, like filling it with something that's not normal, like, oh, wait, I could go to lunch with a friend like multiple times in the week. Maybe I could fit that into my schedule now. What?
Yeah, for real.
Wait, that means I have friends. What? Like it's all that. Oh, how am I nurturing the people? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting for like people that are just starting in real estate to hear this conversation is that all you care about is, how do I get my first deal? How do I get my this? How do I get my that? And you will get sucked into that, which is great. And to some degree, I think that the phase that I went through is what I needed to go through. I had to kind of lose myself for a while to really be obsessed with the thing, to have this success that I have, financial success at least. If I didn't take it seriously, then I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't be employing the people that I have today. So again, it's not that I did anything wrong. It's that there is a different phase. And now it's like the book is suggesting that you brought up, it's basically a second passage. It's like, now I'm finding my second version of myself because I accomplished that version of myself. So it's good because you get to collaborate with people like yourself and have these conversations where we give each other permission. We go, hey, we're all high achievers. Let's give each other permission to live life a different way, instead of just continually thinking that it's just more is more, more is better, all of that kind of stuff. So It's this year will be a lot more me being in my cowboy boots and being on the ranch and hanging out with the buffalo and doing the things and forgetting I even have a phone. In fact, I told my wife from May until August, I'm going to turn my phone off, and the only way to communicate with me is either on walkie-talkie out in on the ranch, or somebody can send me an email and I'll check my emails 1 hour a morning, and then the rest of the day it's just kids, beekeeping, being with the buffalo, doing all the fun things, and just forgetting that I even work at all. So big year for me ahead.
Okay, how are you going? I'm gonna put an elbow in this a little bit and say, how are you gonna actually hold yourself accountable to that? Because high achievers, we have this, some people say addiction, propensity, we can fill it in with a lot of words to make it feel good to us, whatever we want. But it's like, oh, I'm just gonna check on that. Like, how are you gonna actually like not check your phone?
I've already, this is the great thing. If I'm a very massive action taker, I'm an implementer. In fact, my number one, if you've ever taken a Clifton Strengths test, there's a personality profile test that talks about, here's your 35 strengths that every human being has, and then it categorizes them 1 through 35. 35 being your weakest, number 1 being obviously your strongest. My number 1 is activator, which means the second I hear about something or I learn something, I do it immediately. Like, I cannot learn by watching, reading, watching other people. I have to go do the thing, right? So 4 months ago, I hired 2 people that take things off my plate. I don't want to do less. I don't want my business to have less sales. I don't want my real estate to do less cash flow. I don't want my, I own other businesses. I own a fake plant company. I own a virtual assistant company. I own some other things. I don't want to do less. I want to do less. And so I hired 2 people, and their number 1 job description on both of their plates. So they're basically operations managers. Number 1 job description, when it says Molly's job or Jade's job, that's their names. Job description number 1, underneath job description is number 1, remove blah, 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 blah from Pace's plate. And so I woke up maybe 2 weeks ago and I was like, what? Nobody needs me today. This is amazing. Like, I'm already living in May. Like, I could literally shut off my phone the rest of the day today and I'm done. Like, I've already accomplished it. And it's funny that I didn't accomplish this 3 years ago, because I maybe mentally wasn't ready. Maybe I hadn't acquired as much real estate as I felt comfortable doing, whatever, but I've already done it. I just hired people to do the things that I shouldn't be doing. And then also, I'm a lot more efficient with my time. So, for example, if I have to make YouTube content, or I have to go do a Zoom or go do a this, I always ask, is there somebody else on the team that can do it before I have to do it? And I told my team, I sent out an email and I said, all the companies that we own, imagine that for every hour that the company needs me, I bill my time at $50,000 an hour back to the company for you needing an hour of my time. Now, how often would you reach out to me? Now, how often would you text me? And it changed everything. People are like, oh, dang, I don't need Pace. I don't need to bother him. So I'm already in that mode of like, people don't need me because I hired the right people.
I love this. And I think that right there is, for you, conscious investor, that right there is a big gateway, because a lot of times we think that we are needed. It's like, how do we? I love that you said, okay, well, are you going to pay me $50,000 a year, or an hour, even though it's your own company and everything? But when it's just the framework, it's a context, a perspective that we put it in that shifts absolutely everything.
Yeah, I did. This actually came from my family office. So I have a family office that runs all my finances, and I had this opportunity that came across my desk. It was basically like, you ever heard of crumble cookies?
Yeah, delicious.
Okay, so somebody came to me and they go, hey, we want to collaborate with you on a competitor of crumble cookies, and we want to give you ownership in this to go out and build this out. And here's what we think the finances would look like, and here's what your physical requirements would be, blah, 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 blah. So I send over the agreement. I'm like, I'm in, let's do it, right? Because I'm in the mode, 6 months ago, I'm in the mode of like, do more, do more, do more. I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. And my thought was, I have 6 girls on my team that are transaction coordinators. They don't get paid a lot, and they're stay-at-home moms. So there's like this world where they're not really going to push hard to go become a multi-millionaire. So I'm like, oh, it'd be great is if I go build this business and I give them the profit share and I amplify them and I give them more money. Like that's mostly how I think. So I send it over to Ryan at my family office and he replies back and he says, this is going to require 100 hours of your time per year. And I was like, yeah, that's not a lot. That's not that much. That's like 2 hours a week was my justification, right? So he then says 100 hours this year for you to basically make $150,000. He's like, let's divide what you made last year and divide it into hours. And he came back and he said, your time is valued at $32,000 an hour. Crazy amount of money, I know. Sounds crazy, but that's how he justified it. He's like, for every hour you put into that thing, it should make you. So he goes, if it's not going to make you $3 million, it's not worth your time. And I'm like, wow, thank you for that filter that you just gave me. So I went back and I said no. And I said, guys, I'm sorry that this just doesn't produce what I need it to produce at the level it needs to produce because I'm not allocating my time. But here's the thing is 10 years ago, I would have said yes, because my current mind, my skill sets, my resources, my reach, my influence, all of that needed to say yes to that opportunity back then in order to get the relationships, resources, skills, all of the influence, et cetera, to get to where I am now. Like I've already done the thing. Why am I saying yes to things I would have said yes 10 years ago? I'm not the same person. And so it's been great having people around me, coaches, other advisors that it's funny, like I don't accomplish anything on my own. It is literally like my coaches, my advisors, my team members, my head of operations, they give me more advice than I could ever read in a book or anything else. I mean, books are amazing, but it has been 100% my success has come from other people, not from myself.
This is again going full circle about who's influencing you and being aware as to like, okay, well, where are these influences coming from? And when we have people, even if we're paying them as coaches, but we have to have those people that are our gatekeepers, like because we can't see what we don't know. And so they're the filter and they protect us in ways that we don't know how to protect ourselves because of their super skill strengths.
Yeah, it's interesting. I went dove hunting. Quail hunting, sorry, not dove hunting, quail hunting. Went quail hunting in Florida a couple of years back. And it was really interesting. We went to this place and they give you like, here's your shotgun, here's your shells, here's where all the birds are. Go out there. It's like $100 an hour to go out there. And man alive, we could not find the birds. We could not do the thing. And I'm like, I'm not a hunter. Like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I want to have a good time. So we went back to the lodge. We're like, can we just hire somebody to come out and like show us what to do? And they're like, oh yeah, that package is an extra $500 an hour. And I'm like, will we get a bird? Will we actually get to, get a bird? I go, we can guarantee you'll get a bird. So we go out from $100 an hour on our own to $500 extra per hour. So now we're paying $600 an hour for all of us to be out there with a guide. Same exact location, same exact everything. You already know where I'm going. We came back with like 200 birds. It was like, oh yeah, they're going to be in here. He throws a rock over there, does this, knows exactly where this stuff is. I'm like, time and time again, I'm reminded that I just need to pay for somebody's experience to cut my learning curve down by 10x, and I can accomplish things and become more efficient.
Oh, yes, and amen. Yes, on that. Pace, I want to honor your time. And I see that we're at the top of the hour. And this conversation has been like actually very different than what I was anticipating. I was gonna ask you some investing questions, but honestly, this is I deeply value authentic, soulful conversations where, this right here, Pace, is what people need to hear, because this isn't the mainstream news we all see. And you do a great job, just FYI, like you do a great job. I love following you on social, and I don't spend too much time on social platforms, but when I do, you come up and it's always fun, and it's good content, right?
Thank you.
It's good for people to see this part, right? What's life behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And what am I striving to generate more? Because we need more leaders taking the action and the steps that you are doing. And I just want to say thank you so much for your time. And thank you for your willingness to just say, I'm doing less, but I'm going to do more, because I'm doing like Alex Hormozzi. I'm going to do one to many versus one to one or one to few. I'm going to do one to many. And I you're gonna impact even more lives this year
Yeah.
just by nature of how you're doing this.
Yeah. Famous words. I was texting Alex a couple of days ago and talking about his new company he just bought. And it was funny. He sent me a text message and says, "The less I work, the more money I make." And I was like, I got to write that down. I've got to make that a true statement and manifest that into my life this year of like, the less I work, the more money I make. And now I'm not trying to make more money. I mean, making money is amazing, but I've got streams of income from my investments and all that kind of stuff that, like, for the rest of my life, I don't need to work anymore. But I do have a responsibility. I feel like I have a God-given duty that I have natural skills and personality things about me that I now have been put on this earth to provide opportunities for other people. I can't stop working. I have a responsibility to human beings that don't have the same things that I have, right? So but how can I be more efficient with that so I can accomplish all the things? So this was a great conversation. Good to get to know you too. I look forward to, doing something else in the future, maybe hanging out in Coeur d'Alene, having you and your husband come and visit us in Montana. It'd be great to continue the relationship. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Pace.
I don't need to say yes to every little opportunity that comes to me that takes time away from my family and my friends and my this and myself. It's time for me to start saying no to some opportunities and start saying yes to some stuff for myself.
quick, conscious investor, I want to make sure you knew that you had a personal invitation from me to come up to beautiful North Idaho. Come join me at the Conscious Investor Growth Summit taking place March 8th through 10th at the gorgeous Coeur d'Alene Resort. This is a place for conscious investors to come congregate together, a meeting of the minds. We will be talking about health, mindset, wealth building strategies through real estate. And all of the speakers are so phenomenal. They are flying in to pour into you. This event is unlike any other event out there because it's really taking a holistic approach to investing. We want to cultivate our personal freedom, and we want to ensure that as we are on this path to, developing our wealth through real estate investing, that we are also nurturing our physical well-being, our relationships, our spirituality, our mindset, because we can have all the mechanics and the know-how of, investing and using our money well, but we could be bankrupting these other parts of our lives. And so at this event, I've brought in expert friends from across the country and some locals that are pouring into you. But guess what? That's not all. There's so many powerful all-star rock star people attending. Oh my word. It is going to be phenomenal. So the opportunity to network, to create meaningful relationships and of substance is going to be unprecedented as well. Tickets are limited to 150, and those tickets are going out the door. You don't want to miss out. So I want to see you there. I hope to see you there. And I'd love to extend the promo code FRIEND as a 50% off. That's valid through the end of January. So don't hesitate. Make sure that you are taking initiative, get your tickets, and let's see each other there. Wow, Diane, I am so excited to have you here on the Conscious Investor podcast. I know that the Conscious Investor is just absolutely curious. What do you do and how did you get started? Well, I absolutely love this. And what I love is that so often natural health practitioners, when they're trying to resolve their own personal issues, and often I notice that they end up specializing in some capacity. Conscious Investor, you might remember Brittany was on from Buddha Belly recently talking about gut health, and that's her specialty, right? And so I love that you are specializing in mineral balancing because I'll tell you, when our mutual friend had mentioned that she was going down this protocol path with you, and I've been watching her journey, I'm thinking like, I don't even know what mineral balancing is. And I was really curious, how did you in your journey discover it? That's absolutely commendable that you're trying it on yourself first. I'm the same way when it came to investing in apartments. I started doing it before I invited people to do that with me. And I went down the e-commerce path and I said, "Hey, conscious investor, just let me go down this path first to see what it's really like." And it's so important that we are trailblazers before we start inviting everybody along the path. Now, I'm curious about within mineral balancing. Can you explain how this works? Because and I'm going to have this a little bit elongated question, okay? And I'm doing this for you, conscious investor, because a lot of times we hear things and we don't really understand what they are, and it's easy to just dismiss it. And I personally have been trying to determine if I want to go down a path of blood work, like a lot of my friends do, as I want to improve my health. And if you've been listening for a while, 2024, my goal is I want to improve my health. And so I was looking at blood testing, then I was looking at hormone testing, and then here our mutual friend comes on, it starts telling me she's a longtime friend of mine. And so I'm like, I know you, like you, trust you. And she starts talking about this mineral balancing. Can you explain? I guess what I'd like to ask first is what's the difference and where does mineral balancing fit in this scope of, different testing that people can do? that very much answers the question, and it opens everything up to so many other questions when we're looking at. I appreciate how you were saying because that all of these minerals have to be balanced. And so it's not just go and grab the minerals at the health food shop and just start pounding them, because now if we have something that is in excess, then we're going to be more excessive in that and still deficient, and they're not in balance. And so that's actually not going to be fully functional, fully operational. Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that is absolutely amazing. So what does the process look like? You take a hair tissue sample,
Mhm.
it gets, it goes to a laboratory. Like, can you just walk us through what this whole process looks like? I
It
mean, do
just
we have to just trim the end, or do we have to get the root? Okay, this is fascinating. You were talking about how it's a sample that, I mean, you pluck it from the root so that you have the new growth. What does that show? I mean, I have some ideas because I did do some research on it. As I've been dabbling into this. I'm about ankle deep. But, can you just explain what does that demonstrate to us with that new growth and the rest of the hair strand? Or
um
okay, we don't have to pull it out. Conscious investor, did you hear that? We don't have to have our hair pulled. Okay, just trim it. I got it. Okay, very, very fascinating. Um, what are some I have multiple questions written down here on my notepad. I want to ask you about the heavy metals. And
yes.
if our what tell us the effects of heavy metals, and then also going through mineral balancing, does that naturally flush out the heavy metals? Because I have friends that are just spoke with somebody recently, and his wife was talking about, no, my wife has me on this protocol to like flush out all the heavy metals all the time. So, and I don't think it's the same thing. So I'm curious about the heavy metal issue. That makes so much sense. And I think for a lot of us, the response would be, "Oh, that's bad. I got to get rid of it. Push it out." But I would never have thought of, wait, but you just left this big hole. And so what's going to go there? And naturally, it's going to
I
want to bring like kind back into that home. So this sounds really amazing. You had mentioned about metabolism and things like that. I know conscious of us, or many of us are in our middle years and our bodies are shifting and changing. What are some of the effects that you've noticed with the minerals and metabolisms that are shifting? Oh, I loved it. I'm like tracking with you. This is so fascinating. Okay, this is absolutely fascinating. So, what I'm hearing is, hey, we're going to find out how your body, the oxidizer, aka metabolism, is how we normally talk about it. And in this space, we talk about it as the oxidizer. And then we can start to figure out, okay, this is the category I fall into. I really appreciate the science, like there's science behind it. So we're not just self-diagnosing, self-labeling and saying, oh, I just have such a slow metabolism, or my hormones are changing, or this or that. It's no, here's concrete evidence as to how your organs are actually functioning.
Yes.
And because they're functioning in this way, here's a better protocol. So if a couple of follow-up questions, or maybe just one actually, is it once you know what kind of oxidizer you are, it is two questions. Then do the minerals help regulate that in a better capacity so you're not really hyper or hypo? And the other
Awesome.
element would be is, do we change our actual nutrition according to which
Yes.
what we are? That makes so much sense. And it's so fascinating. So let's go back to protocol real fast, and let's say we start the process. Hair sample, it begins the process. Trim it, don't pluck it. Trim that little hair sample an inch long. That goes into testing. We go over the results of that, and that shows what needs to be adjusted. Supplements are unique just to every single individual, and what their balancing needs to take place. Tell us about what these supplements are like. Am I going to be drinking horse water, for lack of a better word? Am I going, right? Like, am I going to be like having to live by my timer reminding me that in 10 minutes, I got to take that. Like, what does this actually look like? Because I know the Conscious Investor and I are both out on our missions, contributing in the world and to our families. And so, what does that look like in a daily lifestyle? Absolutely. Actually, it sparked another question. Everything always leads when you're curious, right? How young can we start?
That's a
Can we do
great
this with our
question.
kids? Hair sample or weaned? Maybe both.
Yes.
You got to have the hair.
Yeah.
This is absolutely fascinating. I'm wondering, I would gravitate, and conscious investing might be thinking, oh, well, this sounds, more like a female thing. Like maybe this is all the women are doing. I have so many of my gentlemen friends that are pursuing bettering their health in so many different capacities. And so this is definitely one of these protocols that is not gender related. Just because we're two women here, it doesn't mean like, oh, well, this is only for them. And hormones are not just a female thing. Everybody has hormones. And so I'm wondering if you could give us maybe an example, and just because it's easy a couple of examples of some of your clients and what they've seen, the differences that they've seen. If we could even, if we want to do two, if we choose a male and a female sample, and just walk us
Absolutely.
through the changes that they experienced. That makes so much sense. And by the way, conscious investor, if you're listening on the podcast, you're missing this. If you're watching on YouTube, you're like, there is no way that Diane had bad acne problems at all. Like, you have such the most glowy, radiant skin. I'm like, I mean, I believe you because I trust you, but I'm like, oh my goodness, wow. So what are some of I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to run out of time. I have so many questions for you. And I appreciate interrupting myself. I appreciate that you gave us an idea. Hey, we've got to try this consistently 12 to 24 months. I'm also curious about some of the side effects that we may experience. You mentioned that you had the fatigue got worse at one point before it got better. And I know our mutual friend, she experienced something as she was shedding calcium, and so, but she was aware of it. And so what are
Yeah.
some of the common side effects? It's so fascinating because I can't imagine anything. I'm an athlete and I can't imagine trying to go in and work with my body without having, to deal with some discomfort of some sort. Because I mean, having great results usually comes, there's a price of admission. It's like, okay, I just need to pay the price and, understand that this is going to work out. Once you're balanced, this is, another question I have is, once we are balanced and we've done the retesting, let's just say we've gone through 12 months of the protocol and we've done another retest and things have been in balance now. What's the protocol at that point? What's the maintenance of it? Wow. This is absolutely fascinating. I've been really looking forward to having you on the show. I have another, as we wrap this up, I have another question for you. And that is, what have I not asked that you had, that's a common question that people have when they are looking to work with you that I have neglected to ask at this point?
I don't
Or
honestly,
something you think that people should know that we haven't covered? Yeah, that makes so much sense. And honestly, I'm personally into long-term solutions. Slow and steady is what wins the race. And even as I work out in a different way than I used to 15 years ago. It's like great, when I'm 85, I want to be able to do this. I don't have to kill myself. And so inviting a practice like this, into, the health repertoire just seems like a really great opportunity. Conscious Investor, I want you to know that Diane is going to be at the Conscious Investor Growth Summit. And so you want to come. You'll be able to talk with her. So she's not going to go on stage and speak in one of the blocks. She's going to be out there where, like other speakers, but she will be there where you can engage and interact and talk with her about what you're up to and what your concerns are, and just get, answer your nuanced questions. So I wanted to make sure you grab your tickets. They are selling and they're only 150, so you don't want to miss out. So head on over to consciousinvestorgrowthsummit.com and snag up your tickets. We decided that we're going to do a promo code on behalf of Diane that is 50% off. So I know at this point there aren't a bunch of promo codes out there and the tickets are nearly gone. So you want to use the code MINERALS. You hear that S on the end. MINERALS. You want to use that promo code and you're going to have 50% off. This is Conscious Investor. I believe in this. And Diane is here. She wants to support you. So I want to encourage you, come to the summit. It's always great to meet people in person. And then if you're unable for any reason, Diane, how can they reach out and start, working with you to really improve their health on a deeper level? Awesome. I appreciate your time so much on this. I know you and I have so much more content that we're going to be co-creating. Conscious Investor, you want to stay tuned to that. I want to do a couple of workshops. I'm going to be working with Diane. And like she said, she was her own guinea pig. I like to try things out. And this is something I've been doing a lot of research on. And so I'm going to be working with Diane. And we were talking off air about how cool would it be to have a workshop where we can go over the first round of results and share that with you real time, just so you can kind of see, what does this look like? Obviously, I'm a pretty transparent person with you, Conscious Investor. Let me know, let Diane and I know if you would like to just be a part of this process. You're curious about it, but you're uncertain about it. It's the first time you've heard about it. And there are all these other health things out there. I get it. I've been doing a lot of research on this myself. So, if that's something you're interested in following, maybe I'll start creating some more content on the YouTube channel or on social media platforms around my own personal journeys. Let me know. Reach out to me in some capacity and say, I'm totally curious and I want to know. Diane, thank you so much once again for joining me on this. And I'm really looking forward to, walking this journey with you. Awesome. Until next time, Conscious Investor, cheers to health, mindset, and wealth.